everyone, this is the third in the series of A Word That Changes Worlds, and the question is, today, Mincha time. Rav Yaakov Emden left it in the masculine all day, saying there's no source for it, and the Ben Ish Chai says there are some that leave it that way. In a book authored by Rabbi Aharon E. Marcus, Lacha 24:7-12, he writes that Rav Shlomo Fisher's minhag, he would say it only in the feminine, namely, Friday night, Shabbos, and also at Mincha, he would always say ba in the feminine. But many poskim say that at Mincha, you change not to feminine, not to masculine, but to plural. You say v'yanuchu bum. That's the position of the Shiurei Knesset Hagdola, Minhagenu, our minhag is our Mincha v'yanuchu bum, and is quoted by the Magen Avraham in his name. That is the position of the Chida in the name of the Hagaot, Haremes, L'Sefer HaKavanot. That's the position of the Ben Ish Chai according to some, and that is the position of the Shulchan Aruch Harav, Rav Shneur Zalman Miladi. The question is, why? So based on what we said last time, according to the Shiurei Knesset Hagdola, Rav Ben Abishti, by Mincha, you're no longer just a fresh bride in the Chassan's home. You're living together. You become one unified unit. Yes, a bride and groom, a husband and wife should have arguments. If not, they are not married or not talking to each other. But those arguments are between them. When they appear before the public or before their own children, they have to have one unified front. They have arguments how to raise their children, and then they come before their children as one unified front. And therefore it's it's unified. From this perspective, if you recall last time, Rav Shechter connected the way we hold the chalas to what we say. By Shalosh Shudas, you hold the chalas one next to the other as one, not one on top of the other, but rather next to each other. From this perspective, that's the reason why it's in the plural. You're now one unit, in the words of the Aruch HaShulchan, Uvemincha shu samuch la'erev kalul mishneihem omrim bam. However, the Torah Temima, another Rav Epstein, not Rav Yechiel Michael Epstein, but Rav Epstein, the author of the Torah Temima, in his footnotes to the Torah Temima, he comes along and says, well, since the proper nusach at Mincha is Shabbatot Kochecha in the plural, not Shabbat Kochecha, therefore we have no choice but to change it to the plural and therefore say bum instead of bo. Namely, since the Sidurim has changed the word Shabbos to Shabbatot, we're now not just davening for this Shabbos, but rather davening for many Shabboses that are coming, because Shabbos is almost over. In his words, Yanki la'et tfilat mincha kfar pana yom Shabbat zeh velo shayach lihitpalel ala menucha bo umitpalelim ala Shabbatot harabot habaot. Since we're davening for the future Shabboses, so we change the plural and we say we're going to rest on them. Boom. However, this is not the end of the story. Although most leave it this way, there happens to be a difference of opinion as to changing that wording prior. Shulchan Aruch Harav says the proper way to say it is Shabbatot Kochecha. Since you're going to say plural, you have to change the word before it to Shabbatot. That's the way the Kaf HaChaim says as well. And he says to look in the Petach HaDevir. The Petach HaDevir, and in this book, it says, because of the reason I said, namely you're going from singular to plural. However, if you go with the position that you leave the word bo even at Mincha, like Rav Yaakov Emden said, like the Ben Ish Chai said, some Hasidim do in Yerushalayim, then says the Petach HaDevir, and afresh bekach bechol tfilot shel yom shomrim bahem v'yanuchu bo b'shaveh. You can leave it in the singular. ולפי זה צריך לשנות הגרסה ויאמר שבת קודשך כבשחרס. So very simply, if you change to bum at Mincha, you have to change it to Shabbatot, plural Shabboses, and if you leave it in the singular bo, you can leave it with the word Shabbat in the singular as well. And indeed, Rav Hershel Shechter says that was the position of the Rav, at Mincha, V'anchilenu Hashem Elokeinu, Shabbatot Kochecha, T'im Lokein, En Lashon Tefillah Kol Mashmut Al Pi Pshuta. Namely, if I can quote from the Machzer, called Rosh Hashanah Machzer, with the commentary adopted from the teachings of Rav Joseph B. Soloveitchik, the Rav would say Shabbatot Kochecha, In this way, the phrase is consistent with the subsequent phrase V'yanuchu bam, also in the plural form. Without this change, the subject and the pronoun are inconsistent, and the text has no straightforward meaning. So, to make a long story short, if you're going to change to the plural and say bam, you have to change the word Shabbat to Shabbatot. However, in the book put out by Rabbi Mendy Gopin, called Davening with the Rav, he brings a different minhag of the Rav. Indeed, at Shachris, he says, if you're going to say bo in the masculine, you can't just say Shabbos, because Shabbos is feminine. And therefore, you're going from feminine to masculine. So you have to add the word yom. So instead of saying V'anchilenu Hashem Elokeinu ba'avar v'ratzon Shabbat kdshech, you say V'anchilenu Hashem Elokeinu ba'avar v'ratzon Yom Shabbat kdshech, because Shabbat is lashon nekeva, bo lashon zachar, v'lachen mosifim et hamilah Yom shakol yeh b'lashon zachar. You want to put it all in masculine. At Mincha, he says the Rav did something totally different. He didn't say bum, he said bahen. If you're going to plural, bum is not necessarily plural in his mind, and therefore you should say Shabbatot Kodshecha v'yanuchu bahen, in them, in the absolute plural according to all. So we have two positions as what the Rav did. Some say he left the word bum and just said Shabbatot, like many poskim, and that's what Rav Shechter brings, but Rav Gopin says no, he changed it twice. Shachris, he said Yom Shabbat Kodshecha v'yanuchu, making everything into masculine. And Mincha, he said Shabbatot Kodshecha, albeit he didn't say v'yanuchu bum, in them, which can mean either plural or singular, but rather v'yanuchu bahen is for sure plural. So as you could see, one word can change worlds. You literally have to change maybe what you said prior in order to say what you say afterwards.